Morning, I'm doing this little video for Athlete because they provide me with amazing quality meat, and what I'm going to do today is try and make an underground oven. I've done this in survival situations in different parts of the world, in Fiji and Romania. It's a very, very good method of cooking big joints of meat if you don't have a cooking pot. And specifically, I'm not doing this in a survival situation, I'm doing this in my garden because I think it's a really good way of cooking meat as a barbecue. In an ideal world, it wouldn't have been hoofing it down with rain last night and the ground would not be soaking wet, but that's a challenge in itself. Normally in the summer, when the ground is dry, obviously the moisture won't wick away the heat from the stones, so that will be a bit of a challenge today, but it means I've got to get the fire very, very hot. The first thing I need to do is dig a little bowl, and that bowl is going to be about the size of a washing up bowl or maybe an upside down dustbin lid. Not that deep, doesn't need to be that deep, but and then I'm going to line it with rocks that are ideally about fist size, but again, that depends on what I can find in the garden. In an ideal world, they're the hardest rocks that you can find. Obviously porous rocks can contain water and can explode, so don't take them out of a stream. That would be a nightmare. Okay, now that I've dug myself a hole, you can see it's about that deep really. So about the size of a washing up bowl, I suppose, really. And I've got my pile of earth there that it's very important to keep clear because I'm going to use that later to cover it all over. Now I just need to line the holes with my rocks that I've already collected, and once I've done that, I'm going to make a massive fire on top of it. See, all I'm doing here, it's a bit like crazy paving really, is putting the stones into the hole. Doesn't matter where they go, and you can see they're all different shapes and sizes. That's a bit flat, doesn't matter, and as long as it covers the whole of the bottom. And these rocks are going to superheat. If it was dark, you'd be able to see them at the end glowing red hot. And they will retain heat for a huge amount of time. This is the way Aboriginal Australians make their sweat lodges, by superheating rocks like this in a fire. And I'm going to leave them in this fire to heat up, and I'll leave the fire going for about 4.5 hours. Sounds quite specific, but 4.5 hours is the magic time. As I said, this is not a survival lesson at all. This is making a barbecue in your back garden, but in order to get kindling, you can see I'm just reaching up for the branches in the low of the tree, branches that are dead, because this stuff is super dry. When you touch it with your tongue, it's dead dry, and because it's off the ground, of course, it's not soaking up the moisture from the floor. This stuff is great kindling to start my fire. I'm not messing around here, we're literally just making an underground oven in the garden, so I'm using a fire lighter and a lighter, and I'm just going to light that as such in the bottom here, and then add my kindling. Small grades of wood first, and then gradually get bigger. Bang a load more wood on. This is an old yew tree, and in the storms a couple of months ago a massive chunk of it fell down, so there's still a load of yew there. which is pretty dry now, dry enough anyway, and I'm just going to build a big bonfire here. And the trick is to have it hot and roaring for about 4.5 hours, which means that by that time, by early afternoon, the stones are going to be so red hot, they're going to be super heated, that they'll retain their temperature for long enough to cook the meat really well under the ground. I think for me the trick is that you've got to have a big old pile of wood. If you've got a big old pile of wood and you can have a massive fire, then this is one for you, because not got enough wood, you're not going to get a big enough fire, you're not going to get a high enough temperature, and the stones aren't going to heat up to super temperatures. So loads of wood, be liberal with your application of it, be relaxed with the amount of duration of time you give it, 4.5 hours, and it'll be perfect. I have a shoulder of lamb with a whole bone in here. This is from Athlete, which is where I'll get all my meat. It's organic, it's grass fed, it's well sourced, and the fire has now died down enough. It's been burning for about 4 hours actually, and I'm just going to scrape away the embers, reveal the superheated rocks, place this meat directly on top of the rocks, and then cover with some vegetation which I've got behind me, and then cover the whole thing with the soil that I originally dug out of the hole. One of the important things is, if you've got hot embers like this, scrape them to the other side as the of the pile of soil, because you can use these to your advantage in a minute. Wow, this is properly hot. This is seriously hot. Even though I'm using a stick, I might have to get the spade because that is hot. What I want to get down to is back to where the stones are underneath, so there's no embers. The stones there. Now, you would think, wouldn't you, if you put meat directly onto the stones, onto the superheated stones, that it would all burn, but it doesn't. I'm literally put that in as such. I'm now just going to put some vegetation on top. In an ideal world, this is coconut leaves, but there aren't that many coconuts in my garden. Okay, I'm going to cover that initially. And then in the soil that I dug out originally, that all goes back on. And you can see the little patches where smoke is coming through the soil, and you want to dump more soil on where the smoke's coming through, because ideally we don't want any smoke coming through at all. I want it all to be sealed. Okay, that should do it. The whole thing's now covered in the earth that I originally took out of the hole. I'm now going to leave this for 4.5 hours to slow cook to perfection. Okay, the slightly bad thing about underground ovens in the UK in winter is that the day's not long enough, especially when you get out of bed at the time I do, and it's dark. That said, it's just getting on for 7 o'clock, so it's supper time, which is the time when you get hungry, isn't it? So I'm gonna dig up the meat, take it into the kitchen and have it for supper with Laura. Okay, the embers coming back off, and there we have it. This is meat. Look at that. This little bad boy needs to be taken into the kitchen to be sampled where there's some light, I think. That is amazing, no?
It tastes great.
That is incredibly tender. So soft, you could literally bite it if you didn't have any teeth. One shoulder of lamb with a bone in, cooked in winter in England in the damp ground using an underground oven method.
That's hot.
Success.